Hello, everyone. I'm WFXR Sports Director Jermaine Ferrell. Welcome to the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. Each Tuesday and Friday, I will have a special sit-down, one-on-one interview with a person in the world of sports. It is our commitment to bring you a special look at these people and share their stories with you on WFXRTV.com. Again, thank you so much for logging on to WFXRTV.com for the latest edition of the WFXR Sports Sit Down. Enjoy. All right, folks, Jermaine Ferrell here in the house with another edition of a WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. And I tell you, this young lady, one of our awesome college basketball coaches in our area, she's leading the Roanoke College women's basketball program, going to her 7th season as head coach of the Maroons, coming off one of their best seasons since 2011. And it's honored and privileged to have the head coach of the Roanoke College women's basketball program, Carla Flaherty. What's up, Coach Carla? How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing good. And by the way, real quick, happy 2nd wedding anniversary to you and Neil, because I know your wedding anniversary was in June the 8th, so congratulations.
Look at you with all the details. Well done.
Hey, well, there's other details which I won't mention, but I'll keep those when we go off the air. How about that? Yeah, congratulations again on that. And also, we'll touch more on it later, but the team is growing, as we could say, because in a couple of months, you're going to have a little munchkin, girl or boy, by the way.
We're having a little girl. So literally 2 months from today, she should be joining us. Hopefully she's on time and punctual, because that'll be important for the season. But I can tell you in the last week or so, she's already learned how to box out, or hopefully it's throwing a left punch. We'll see, because she's been pretty active lately. But yeah, we're really excited. The team's excited too, which is fun to see.
So they're going to have some babysitters there.
Yes.
And we'll talk about a little bit more of that later on in the interview. But first, I got to ask you, I mean, you're a Gorham, Maine native. And the funny thing is, I remember you saw me wear our LL Bean WFXR jacket. You said, hey, you're kind of connected to Maine with the LL Bean. How much LL Bean stuff do you have being from Maine?
A lot. And it's quality stuff, right? So you have to have it. I don't use it as much down here, because most of my LL Bean gear was warm weather gear. And down here, as I've transitioned to the warmer weather, I don't use it as much, but I still have the rain gear, which I know you have, and you know that comes in handy.
Isn't that the truth? And I still owe you a jacket. I haven't forgotten. So I owe you a jacket. So there you go. First of all, I just got to ask you, overall, with COVID-19 and all the things going on, obviously you're an expected mother, and then also you're a college women's basketball coach. How has this impacted you overall? Because I know you got a lot of stuff going on right now in those regards.
Yeah, I won't lie, and being honest, it's kind of been personally this strange blessing, because I have been able to be home to enjoy this pregnancy. You know, with AU tournaments being canceled, selfishly, I haven't been on the road. So in my personal life, it's really been wonderful to spend time with my husband and my family, and to just kind of enjoy this process. Now, when you put on the other hat, the basketball coach side, it's been an interesting combination of, just trying to check in different methods with, prospective student athletes, to keep them engaged, to make sure that Roanoke College is still on, the forefront of their thinking. And we did a lot of work last summer, really. I think because our program has taken some steps, we were able to really focus on younger classes when it came to recruiting. So we do have a wonderful, list and composite of prospective student athletes. So we're just really trying to focus hard on those student athletes for the upcoming seasons.
It's got to be big. Going back to your childhood as a basketball player in high school and even in college, particularly at Bates College. I mean, you were a baller. I mean, you left there the 5th highest point total. I mean, you were getting it done. You scored a little more than 1,100 points. Talk about your high school basketball career and then doubling over to Bates College. And let everybody know where Bates College is, by the way.
Sure. So Bates College is located in Maine, and my high school career, Basketball was just an area where I felt comfortable, and I just loved being a part of a team. But from as long as I can remember, all I ever wanted to do was hold that gold ball and win a state championship, because I remember as a little kid watching those that came before me do exactly that. And so that just became this vision and dream. And it was really fortunate that in my senior year, we were able to make that happen and see that come to fruition. I mean, that's a once in a lifetime memory. They actually have done that. They have some really good basketball teams. They've won state championships the last couple of years. I think there was, about dating myself, a 20-year gap between when we won ours and when they currently, just won theirs. But there's just some great athletes that come out of Gorham. I think it's a great high school. There's wonderful teachers. It's a wonderful community. And when I was looking at colleges, I really had no idea. And I think that's something that, I've taken as a college coach when I talk about recruiting. I went to a liberal arts institution because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think that's perfectly fine. And that's one of the reasons I think Roanoke's such a great fit for me as a college coach. And one of the things that I love talking to prospective students about is you don't have to know what you want to do. So my mother dragged me to schools. I was not the proactive kid that knew what she wanted to do. I wasn't ready for college. And I checked out a bunch of schools in Massachusetts, and I didn't want to be too far from home. And I landed at Bates. She made me go. They had a Maine day where only Maine prospective students went to campus. And I fell in love. I toured. It was a torrential downpour day, but I sat in on a geology class, and the faculty member teaching the class was simulating glacier movement using pancake batter. And then he served pancakes to the class, and I was like, that's it, I'm sold. So it's little things in this process and journey, but it was the perfect fit for me. I really felt like I, came into my own in college, and it really shaped who I was as a human being.
And then, not only that, you played softball there too. I mean, you played basketball and softball. So how did that dynamic happen? Because there's some crossover between basketball and softball.
Well, again, I think, in high school, I played multiple sports. I really still am a firm believer in doing that. I'm not someone that believes you should specialize. And I think you meet multiple groups. I think it's always good to hear different coaching perspective. Some would argue, including my own father, I was probably better at softball than I was basketball. I just enjoyed basketball more. I was probably recruited more to play softball in college. And doing both, just again, two different groups of people, two different coaches. I think it just opened up multiple opportunities at the school. The NESCAC was a little bit different just because the seasons were a little bit different. We didn't start basketball till November 1st, whereas basketball, Roanoke starts on October 15th. Softball started a little bit later, so we didn't miss much. But it was definitely, once basketball ended, it was hit the ground running and right into softball. But it's also Maine, so we start a little bit later because some of our workouts were shoveling snow, whereas down here they're actually playing the actual sport. So
yeah, and one heck of a guard. And then now, where did you play? What position did you play in softball?
I was a first baseman and outfielder.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
How many homers did you hit? I know you went yard a little bit, didn't you?
Again, I didn't hit home runs. I set a record for triples, which is a funny story in the family because my father always made fun of me and told me that I never extended my arms. And if I'd extended my arms, I would have led the league in home runs. But I hit the fence a lot and made it to third, but I never actually hit one over.
Kind of like a slapper then. You were a slapper.
I actually did a little bit of both. I was able to, I'm a lefty, but I always bat righty. And in college, they turned me around lefty so that I was a slapper. Because at the time, some wouldn't say that they knew that about me now, but at the time I was quite fast, so I could get down the line.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see you getting down the line with some speed, as they say. And then for your first coaching job, you stayed there. You stayed there as coaching there. And you were also, not only were you the basketball coach there, you coached assistant and moved on there, but you were also the soccer coach. So did you play soccer in high school too? I mean, I found all this stuff. It was just so cool. It's like, oh, soccer now. So how did all that turn out?
So when I graduated from college, I had some coaches at Bates that were like, come talk to me. And, my whole life, my dad had said, when you're a coach someday, and I was adamant that I was not going to be a coach. I was like, nope, I've done sports. I'm not doing it. So once I graduated, I actually moved to San Diego and worked in finance. I missed sports when I was out there and just naturally started to gravitate back towards basketball. So I ended up volunteering at the University of San Diego. Eric Johnson was an assistant coach there. He actually was a former head coach at BC. He's a D3 guy who was friends with our men's basketball coach, which had that connection. So I volunteered there, kind of got my feet wet. And my coach in college had sent me a game film where he said to me, just take a look, Carla, I'm missing something. Can you give me some perspective? So I watched the game film and I wrote him a long email about my thoughts, and he came back and had brought that to the athletic director, and they created a position for me. So I had no intention of getting into coaching, but that's how I got back to Bates, was that position was created. And my head coach was the head soccer, head basketball coach. So my very first year, I was an intern in the athletic department. I was an assistant soccer, basketball, and softball coach. So I was working all year round in all three sports, which again, I think just at that age, when you start out coaching, it's just get as much knowledge as you can possibly get. And so that's how I hit the soccer mark. And then I was an assistant soccer coach for 6 years. My coach took a sabbatical. And so then all of a sudden I was, thrust into this head coaching position, which for me was invaluable because while I hadn't played the sport, coaching is coaching. And so it's about being prepared. It's about, being motivational and listening and putting your athletes in a position to be successful. So that was invaluable when I started to apply for head basketball coaching positions. While I didn't have head coaching position in basketball, I had head coaching experience in soccer. And so I was able to combine both of those.
So in theory, you could help out the Roanoke College women's soccer team and the softball team.
You could. I think coaching is about connecting and personalities and really people skills. So I think obviously you have to have a breadth of knowledge in that respective sport, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
And then you got your first head coaching job at Laselle College, that's another Division III school. Just talk about how did that come about, and just talk about your experience there, because you had a strong set of seasons there at Laselle.
Yeah, in your career, you look and you evaluate, and I had really done everything I could at Bates. In my initial planning, I really thought, this is where I want to end up. I want to take over for my head coach, but I need to go in order to come back. That was my logic at the time. So this position at Laselle opened up and I'd applied. I'd been a finalist for a couple other positions, but I truly am a believer that things happen for a reason. So I got the job at Laselle, moved down to Massachusetts, and it was a program at the time, they'd only won 1 or 2 games, and it was a really big challenge for me to take a step back. When I was at Bates, we were #1 in the country. We were competing on a national level, consistently getting to the NCAA tournament. And here I was walking into a program with all this confidence and belief in turning around a program, being able to get kids in. In that first season where we went 1-25, it really knocked me on my heels. It really challenged me personally. For my whole life up until that point, I think I valued my worth on wins and losses. And so I had to sit back and be like, what, can I do this? Am I good at this? What's going on? I've never lost. The joke was, I called my dad after our first loss, and we'd lost by 25 points. I'm like, I've never lost by 25 points in anything, Dad, like card games, board games, let alone sporting events. So, and then we played Tufts University, who when I was at Bates, we beat them. And they beat us by 40. So I made the same phone call and had the same conversation, and really had to do some internal growing and development, to really say, I'm still a good person. I can do this. I will honestly say the second year was harder. The first year I just, said, okay, let's get a feel for what we've got. I'd recruited this first class that I was so excited about, but I was young and naive, and you forget they're freshmen, and freshmen need time to develop and grow. So we were 4-21 that season, and that was my hardest season, because I really thought I got this group, great girls, we're going to turn it around. and we struggled. And so what I had to learn was I need to make this fun. I need to make this enjoyable while still teaching this game to this committed group of young women. And that's what we had. We had girls that bought in. And then in that third and fourth year, you really saw them take it to the next level. We continued to grow. We continued to add. And I knew if you just put your head down, continue to work hard, good things would happen. And so each institution has their own struggles, but I can say that group of girls that I worked with, they were just special. I learned so much. I think they learned so much. And again, it was a reminder to me, or perhaps even in the beginning, just an acknowledgement that winning is hard. And I think I took that for granted when I was at Bates because we were so successful. The expectation was you win, and you forget that sometimes the grind to get there is the biggest challenge and biggest motivation and biggest part of the journey.
That's awesome stuff right there. You turned that program around. And speaking of turning things around, you came to Roanoke and in 2014. And first of all, you're taking over for a legend in Susan Dunnigan, who, when you think of Roanoke women's basketball, you think of her 33 years, and you're taking over her. And in essence, you know, you're taking over a program that it struggled a little bit near the end of her tenure. But first of all, just how did the Roanoke get on your radar? And what was it like to actually have this opportunity to replace a Susan Dunnigan, which I mentioned is a legend?
Yeah. I actually, I got a call from Scott Allison, and I had been applying for jobs. I was a finalist at a different institution, and that athletic director had connected with Scott. So when I received that call, I was a little shocked because I hadn't really heard of Roanoke. And when I did some research, I thought, okay, but in my head, I'm going, I'm not moving to Virginia. Like, I'm a Mainer. I'm going to go back home. But one of the things I talk to all of my recruits about in their journey is to just trust the process and to trust their gut. And so I said, okay, I'll get on a plane, flew down. I was nervous because when I looked at all of the coaches on staff, everybody stays. And so I thought, oh my gosh, nobody leaves. So if I get down there and I get this job, am I going to be in Virginia forever? And people were like, you don't have to stay if you don't like it. If you don't get the job, it's okay. But when I came down, the biggest thing for me was the people. You walk around campus, it's this beautiful campus, it's this beautiful area, and wonderful people. I mean, at the time we didn't have the Krager Center, but you could tell that every piece was here to be successful. And ultimately, that's what I was looking for, was where can I be successful? Where can I take a program to championship caliber level consistently? That's what, I think every coach strives for. And I certainly found that in Roanoke. And it's been an honor to be here. Obviously, with the facilities, that's great. But at the end of the day, for me, it was about people. And so that's how my journey led me to Roanoke.
And that's just awesome. And like I said, you've grown the program over the years. It seems like every year the program has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. Then this past season got kind of cut short, but even the year before that, I mean, it was a breakthrough to win the 18 games. And actually, I know your goal was to at least get the team to the Salem Civic Center. And there are times you came up a little short, but then you finally got them there. You got an upset over Emory and Henry in the quarterfinals, and you made a run there. For you personally, what's it like to see the growth of the program? Because I know when you got there, you could see the potential, and now it's kind of like it's kind of getting to where you want it to be, or is it where you want it to be? I know the answer to that question, but it just seems like it's in a stronger situation now than it was when you got there.
Yeah, I think when I got here, it was just put your head down and work hard. And again, I really truly believe that I was meant to be at Laselle to learn that lesson. And that if I continue to believe in myself, no matter what people on the outside are saying or thinking, I think in the beginning there were some questions when we didn't turn it around in 1-2 years, but I just knew if we stay the course, we're going to find all the pieces and we're going to make this thing right. And I just believed so deeply in what I was doing and the vision for the program, but I just also believed so deeply in the team. I think one of the things, that's noticeable about our team, we don't have all these all-conference players. What we've really worked on is creating a great team atmosphere, a great culture, and buy-in. And I think that's what's happened. And in the last 2 years, we've really seen a result of that. And we got to get to the Civic Center. That's the first goal. But there's been an immediate shift in mindset. This year in particular, it wasn't about getting to the Civic Center. They did that, and they were really upset that they lost in the semis. And this year was a disappointing year, where in years past it was, let's just get there. Yay, we celebrate it. There's been a major shift in our own personal expectations. And that's where your program has taken the next step. And that's why I'm so excited about our group. They're just awesome young women. They're smart, they're vibrant, they're funny. And they know now, I think, what it takes to be successful. So that's why I'm excited about the future.
One thing I notice about women's basketball coaches and coaches in general, it seems like some of your better coaches were like guards or point guards or shooting guards. And obviously you played that position. And it just seems like that there is something about a coach who maybe has a little guard in him that comes out. You played that position, and I can tell right now, sometimes when I watch you on the sideline, I feel like I'm looking at a Pat Summitt like coach. Because, I mean, on the outside, hey, and you're an awesome person, don't get me wrong. But when it's time to go, like there's been times I've walked up to you before a game and you give me that look and you're like, you're in game mode. So I'm like, okay, see you later, coach. But then afterwards, everything's going, which I get it. Hey, but sometimes when I'm doing a TV show, like if I'm going to do sports, I kind of in that zone where I'm like, okay, it's showtime. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I notice that you have a lot of that Pat Summitt in you and other strong, women's basketball coaches. And it seems like, particularly, like I said, if you're a guard, you have that in you. Was there a coach at any level that kind of inspired you or you kind of maybe pattern yourself after?
I honestly feel like it's a combination of several coaches in my life. Certainly not on a level of Pat Summitt. I can't even begin to be in that category. But, I had a wonderful AAU coach before I got to college who really transformed me as a player, just in his belief in me. And he always said, you're really good. And I didn't know at the time what that meant. And he would point out certain qualities. And then again, my college coach, his style and his philosophy and the balance of hard work and fun. I've taken so much from him. I talk to my team all the time about how hard work and fun aren't incompatible. You can do both. It's important to do both. I bet you that I've said that a million times on camera as well. I mean, that's just something that I believe in. We need to laugh. We need to have fun. But I also think I've been so fortunate to surround myself with wonderful coaches. Yeah, I kind of have that guard mentality. We play a fast-paced game, which I love. That was a style that we played in AAU and college. At Laselle, I was, surrounded with one of the most brilliant minds, basketball minds. His name was Todd Montana, and he just helped show me different elements of the game and was on my staff. Right now, Coach Nichols, my associate head coach, I mean, she's just a genius, and she's a wonderful recruiter, wonderful teacher. I'm so blessed to have her on staff. And then Coach Carter, you talk about that guard mindset. Well, I have this volunteer coach who comes in and he transforms our post players. They come in one player and they leave another, and that's the testament to him. I think in practice sometimes they look down and the guards are shooting. The post players are getting after it. And I think sometimes they wish they could go down on the guard side so they could have a little shooting time, but they work their tails off. And so to have that balance on staff is paramount. I couldn't do this on my own. I don't think any head coach can. You're as good as the people you surround yourself with. It's cliche, but I'm so fortunate to have the best around me.
One thing that's neat, and it's more of a focus on the ODAC. The ODAC conference, when it comes to women's basketball, I feel is second to none at the Division III level. Every time I see, like just in the teams we cover, Roanoke, Hollins, Washington Lee, Ferrum, Randolph, probably missing one of them, but there's so many. But even in our neck of the woods, in our DMA, we cover more Division III schools than anyone else. And it just seemed like night in and night out. And then if you branch out, you have Emory and Henry and Randolph-Macon and all the conference in general. It seems like it's just like a battle royal. Like you can't look at the ODAC and say, oh, it's an easy win there. it just seems like from top to bottom, it is a battle royal, particularly protecting home court and the way the scheduling is all that. Just talk to everybody about just what is it like to be in the ODAC and play against these teams night in and night out, because it's something.
Yeah, again, I think this league is incredible. You touched upon it. I was speaking with my associate head coach, Allison Nichols, when she played at Bridgewater. It was Bridgewater and Roanoke and then the bottom of the league. And that's just not the case anymore. They knew they could walk into certain games and get W's. You can't do that. Every team, top to bottom, plays their tail off. They have wonderful coaches. I think the ODAC as a whole, I've never been involved with a league where, number one, there are so many female coaches and strong female leadership, where we're also, competitive when we step on the court, but there's a cohesiveness off the court and a mutual respect among the coaches. But this league is a powerhouse. You have to be prepared. You cannot take a night off. And so I think that's helping prepare. And, our ultimate goal is to get to the NCAA tournament. So the stronger our league is, the stronger our strength of schedule is, the better we're all going to do. And so that's what we have to, we need to make sure we're at the top of our game. And then when we schedule those non-conference games, you're playing a Christopher Newport, you're playing, we have an Oglethorpe on the schedule next year. We're trying to bring the highest caliber teams to our non-conference schedule so that we can show people we're going to compete nationally.
It's funny you mentioned all the coaches in the ODAC. Has a baby shower been planned for you? Have all the coaches, put your guard down like, hey, coaches, get together, have a Coach Carla baby shower.
It was, there's been quite a few babies in the league. I know Abby at Lynchburg had a baby and Melissa at Shenandoah. Obviously, I'm about to have a baby girl. Again, I think there's this camaraderie among coaches, and it's really unique and awesome.
Yeah, and I do see the respect among all the coaches. You all respect each other, and it's great covering you all, and I enjoy it. It is fun to see the growth of the conference, particularly the teams in our area that are doing so well in the conference.
Yeah.
I got to ask you this, with everything that's been going on, obviously with the racial injustice and the social injustices and all these things are going on. How have you handled this with your team? Have you had conversations with your players about all the things that's been going on with Black Lives Matter and things of that nature? How have you handled that with your team?
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about, both Coach Nichols and myself, in one email together, we were talking, and very early on, we sent a message to our team. One of the things that I think makes our team so great is how diverse it is. That's something that I think really breathes into our personality. We have all walks of life, and we talk about that. And one of the things with my team that they know about me is I'm just kind of a straight shooter. So in what I said, Black Lives Matter. There's racial injustice. It's not okay. And we're here to support you, your emotions, your feelings, whatever is going on. I want to make sure that our team is a safe environment and that they know that it's a safe environment, that their voices are welcome and warranted, whether it's concerns, voices of support. And I think we talk about family, how we're not always going to agree on everything, but at the end of the day, I think we always know we have each other's back. And so that was something we connected with early on in this process. And so just open dialogue. And one of the things that I said to them was, I'm always a student. I'm always here to learn. And I don't know the answers. I have been privileged and fortunate in my life. And so if we continue to grow and learn together in this environment where I can create a safe environment for them, that's been our conversation and our dialogue as a program.
Well, that's awesome. And I appreciate you doing that, because I feel that we need, in my opinion, and I said this before, I said there needs to be more education. There needs to be more, there's old saying, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use the 2 ears to listen and take everything to heart. So I appreciate you doing that. Thank you for doing that, Coach, because you're awesome and a blessing. I appreciate you doing that. All right. Now, fun time here. We're going to call it Ferrell's 5. Where I ask you 5 rapid fire questions. And when I mean rapid fire, hey, take all the time you need with them. They should be easy. First of all, your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is blue. Now, that said, red. High school, I was maroon. College, I was garnet. And now I coach maroon. So there's also, my wardrobe is a lot of maroon colors. So by default, that's the natural, that's the easy. But if I had to go, I think it would be blue.
Good deal. How about your
Don't tell Eastern Mennonite that. Don't tell any other
Washington Lee or any?
Washington and Lee. No, it's a navy blue. So those schools are royal blue. So it's different.
Different shade of blue.
Different shade of blue. Yeah.
Pregame ritual. What's your pregame ritual?
Yeah, I kind of sit in my office by myself and just take some time to slow down a little bit. You know, there's so many things running through your head. Coach Nichols goes out to the court. She'll do some things in the locker room, and I sit and try to really come into my own and just be calm and present in the moment. And so that way, when I step onto the floor, I'm calm and present. So usually it's being by myself. I don't plan pregame speeches or anything like that. It just kind of comes to me. I usually have a lot more to say at halftime. But yeah, my pregame ritual is just being by myself, taking some deep breaths, and really focusing on what's about to take place.
All right, favorite basketball movie?
Ooh. Gosh, that's a hard one.
So this question was tougher than the other, the one I asked before for 5.
This is hard. I mean, you know, your classic go-to Love and Basketball was just fun because it's always on repeat. Plus, I love that my team likes it. I was always a Hoosiers fan. It's just natural. But I will say it wasn't necessarily a movie, but the 86 Celtics highlight reel, where that's one of my all-time favorites, where, you know, Larry Bird, you know, where he comes in and it's like, Indiana has a new state bird. I mean, that music is just in my head. And so the 86 Celtics, I watched that on repeat every day in college. So that would be my go-to basketball show. Yeah.
You know, what's funny about that, my mom is a big Celtics fan, and I'm a big Lakers fan, so sorry about that. But and I knew you knew that, but yeah, I didn't tell you. My mom is a Celtics fan. And you know what's funny about those Celtics teams? I hated the Celtics. Like back in the 80s, if you were a Laker fan, you hated the Celtics.
Yeah.
But as time progressed, you learn the teams that you hated, you look back at them, you get older, and say, wow, they were pretty good. Those Celtics teams were good. And then, you know, obviously the rivalry's been renewed a little bit, you know, in the 2000 range and all that. So it's pretty cool. So, hey, I ain't hating on you though.
Well, and I love the, you know, it was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and them talking about how they made each other better because of the rivalry. Without each other, when Larry Bird got hurt, Magic said he didn't want to play anymore. Or when Magic couldn't play because he was diagnosed with HIV, you know, Larry didn't want to play anymore because they were missing that rivalry. So it's funny, you know, when I grew up, I hated Bowdoin, right? I played at Bates and it took me 10 years to get over that hatred. The head coach is now a Bates alum, but it's that hatred that really fueled that competitive nature. So you're spot on with that.
Good stuff. All right, time winding down. Who would you like, professional, college, whoever, who would you like to take that last shot and get the win for you?
Michael Jordan.
MJ.
It has to be. He's the best. MJ, he's the best.
There you go. Hey, drop my mic drop. What did you think of the documentary, The Last Dance, by the way?
I really enjoyed it. And again, what I loved was that competitive nature. And I've been saying it with our teams too. When we can have our best players, which I think our program's at that place, you know, take Christina Harrell, for example. She's one of our better athletes and nobody's going to work harder. That's when you have success because she can just lead by example. That's what was so astounding, was the level that Michael held his teammates to. And it was, if I'm doing this, you need to be doing it. And we can be better and we have to do it. And I think his progression was learning to be a part of a team, that he didn't have to do it on his own. And I really loved watching that growth in him because I think that transcends to all of our programs and our teams.
I don't think you were born yet, but the game that he scored 63 against Larry Bird, no, you weren't born yet, I don't think. And I'm not asking for your age, but I remember watching it. I was 13, 14 years old because I was born in 74. And I can remember, 12 or 13, somewhere there. And I remember watching him, and Larry Bird just didn't have an answer for Michael. He scored. They lost the game. The Bulls did, but 63 points. No one's ever done that in the Boston Garden.
Yeah.
Now, final question on Ferrell's 5. 5, speaking of 5 people, now these are sports people, past or present. You're having a dinner party. Hey, you're having a good old time and all that. 5 people sports people, they could be past, present, dead, or alive, you would invite to your Carla and Neil's dinner party.
Okay. Sports people. Well, you named one. I would definitely want to be having dinner with Pat Summitt, and I would want to be having dinner with Gino Auriemma, because I think their rivalry changed college basketball. Real
quick. I was going to ask you this. So this is my brain. Were you a bigger Gino fan, or were you a bigger Pat Summitt fan? Even though you grew up in that area of New England. I mean, who are you more in line with? Who are you rooting for?
I think I leaned towards Gino, but I had so much respect for both. And that is, as a young girl growing up, I never missed a UConn-Tennessee game. I mean, that was always on in the house. And honestly, at the time, those were the only games that were really that competitive and that good. Right. And I just remember being glued, and they were such feisty, great basketball games. So it wasn't necessarily rooting for one or the other. I was always just enthralled with the fact that every single game was a good game, and that doesn't happen all the time anymore. So yeah, I think that just the rivalry itself was something that I was intact with. So Pat Summitt's such a legend. Some of the things he says, I know he does it to get women's basketball on television, and I appreciate that. But I've also listened to him speak live, and I mean, he's just dynamite. So you have to respect all of that.
All right. So you got Pat Summitt and Gino Auriemma. Yep. You need 3 more.
Okay. Coach P, the coach at Duke, because she was at UMaine when I was growing up. So again, another coach that I got to follow and watch. I have her book. I think she's just absolutely amazing. Love her dearly. Let's see. Do they have to be basketball coaches?
They could be sports figures, past or present, they're alive. It could be a sports broadcaster. It could be an athlete, coach, whoever in the world of sports.
Okay.
Got 2 more.
Let's see. I think I'd like to sit down with Red Auerbach, just because I love the mind. I want to know what's going on. I want to see everything, every decision, the mindset. And then I think Magic Johnson, because he'd be really fun.
Wow. So you didn't have Larry Bird nowhere on your list?
Nope. I think Larry's he's wonderful, but he's not got the personality. Magic is like magic. He's going to make your dinner party special.
So we got Pat Summitt, Gino Auriemma, Coach P down at Duke, Red Auerbach, and Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
Wow. That would be a fun dinner. And then, of course, you would lead all the conversations. And all that.
I would sit back and observe and let them all talk and learn.
Right. And I was going to ask you this. This is more on lines of Division I basketball. When it just seemed like there was a stretch was just the UConn Invitational. Yep. And then like South Carolina broke through, and Baylor broke through, and Oregon's kind of made a run, and Notre Dame. How good is it? Because I always felt, when people say, well, UConn is destroying women's basketball. My thought process is everybody gets better. And maybe a lot of players say, hey, I want to go to UConn. I want to go to UConn. But if I was a player, I'd be like, look, they are established. Maybe I want to go somewhere to establish. And you have players that have now looked at it like, okay, I don't have to go to UConn. I can go to South Carolina or Tennessee or Mississippi State or any of these other schools. And from your perspective, how good is it to see more balance at the top of the Division I women's college basketball?
Well, I think balance is great, and I think it's a testament to where our game has grown. But I was never on the UConn's ruining basketball. It's not fun to watch, because I always just marveled at the fact that, they did get some of the best, but everybody's out there recruiting. Everybody can do, the same things at that level to get the talent. So at that point, they were winning that battle, and it was for others to figure out how to compete. And I've always been of the mindset, there's so much talent in this country. Even when we're recruiting at our level and we get really competitive, you lose one that you've invested in and spent a lot of time with, guess what? Nobody can have it all. So I think the game has grown. I think we're seeing this time where women are being celebrated, and there's so much athleticism and spunk in our game. So I think for the highest levels, even down to our level, I think the parity's wonderful. And I think you mentioned it with the ODAC. It's great. Everybody can go get good players. I think it's how hard you're willing to work, the product that you're willing to build, and the quality student athlete you can attract.
I personally think it's awesome that women's basketball and women's sports in general are being celebrated the way it deserves. I'm a firm believer. I tweeted this out earlier because, and this was sort of another off-topic thing. I've seen these tweets how men are out there bashing women in sports and bashing women's sports broadcasters. And I tweeted out, I said, to all the people hating on women in sports and women broadcasters, stop it. And I even said, hey, there's some women out there that could do a better job than the men doing it.
Yeah.
To me, and I guess with all the stuff, with, again, the racial stuff, I just don't like haters. I mean, here's the thing. A woman can do a job just as well, if not better, than a man. And when I just see it, and I think to myself, well, would you say that to your mom, your sister, your aunt, or whoever else like that? I mean, respect women. I'm a firm believer. I have the utmost respect for women, and I think women should be treated with respect. And I feel like, hey, women in a lot of families, they're the backbone of every family. I mean, my mom held it down, and my wife, God bless her. I mean, without her, I know I wouldn't be the man I am today. So women are awesome. So they should be cherished. They should be celebrated. And I'm all for that.
Well, and I think it's okay to say men and women are different. When you watch a professional game, you're going to watch men that are out there dunking. And I think there's a lot of one-on-one basketball. I think when you watch women's basketball, it is a little bit of a different game because it's 5-on-5 and it's, great basketball. But one of the, Adrian Scheibels, who's the women's coach at Bowdoin, she really was influential because I think in sports we can get competitive, and I think women sometimes can be really competitive, and she's a woman who is all about lifting other women up and really bringing women into the game. We're seeing a loss of coaches. I mean, I've been on Zooms because as the sport keeps growing, the number of female coaches is declining, and I think she's been at the forefront, and she's really influenced me in how do we bring women through the system. And hiring female, you obviously want the most qualified person on staff, right? I have a male and I have a female, but I think that just providing opportunities to stay in this business, I'm about to have a girl, a baby girl. And, it was interesting at Roanoke, when I sat down, with my athletic director, I'm the first person that he's come across who's worked for him, who's actually had a child. And so a female, where we're talking about maternity leave, which doesn't happen in coaching, but just about that dynamic and the fact that I'm the first one is crazy to think about. And I think our league is a testament. There's women having children and staying in this profession, and how do we make it so that we can continue to build and grow the game through female coaches as we navigate and move forward. I think, thank you for saying those kind of things about women and the things that we need to do. We multitask. We're in charge of a lot of different things. I think we take on a lot of things in the department. I think we're always willing to navigate and help in group dynamics as well. And I think sometimes that gets taken advantage of, but other times I think that's just what goes with being, a woman and being willing to assist and help and navigate in all areas.
I think the biggest thing, speaking of multitasking, I mean, in essence, obviously you're going to be officially a mom in a couple of months, but let's face facts, you are a mom to your players. I mean, they look to you for guidance, and also when they need a swift kick in the behind, you give them that. Yeah. And that's got to be special. How has coaching prepared you for motherhood? Because obviously now the daughters you have are a little bit older than what you're going to start off with. Yeah. But how has that prepared you for the path to motherhood?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to Neil about this, and really looking back and going, wow, I have been parenting. And I think when you get into this, when I was young and an assistant, like we talked about earlier, it was about wins and losses, and that was my life. And then as we mature and grow, you see the development of sport, and something I've talked about. I'm one of the most competitive human beings in the world, but when I look at coaching now, I get to use basketball as a vehicle to help young women grow and mature. They come in girls and they leave young women, and I get to use basketball as the vehicle to help them. And that's where I'm their parent, I'm their surrogate parent, I'm their friend. And you mentioned it, for me, parenting is about consistency, follow through. They know I'm going to hold them accountable. They know that I'll be there. I will give them a hug. I will help them through any times that they need, but I'm also there to call them out when they haven't done their job or when they are slacking a little bit. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm so appreciative of. I do think that they have helped me. And I think that they're going to be wonderful. I mean, they're so excited to babysit, and I'm like, I'm a nervous wreck. I've never had a baby. I don't know what's going on. And they're like, we can't wait. So I think they've taught me, a lot about family as well. But they know that I'm there. They know that I will always have their back. And they've taught me so much about growing and developing. And so, yeah, I think that their lessons they say coaches do so much for athletes. I mean, they've done so much for me already.
So what type of player do you see? You say do you have a baby name already?
We don't have one picked out yet. We're working on it.
How about Germania?
Germania? We'll throw it into the hat.
Yeah, that'll go far.
We'll throw it into the hat.
Or you could call her Maine.
When you said Germania, I was like, wow, I never really thought of Maine.
How about Maine? Yeah, Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my nicknames. They say, "What's up, Maine?" So they give me that. Couple other quick questions. I was talking about your little one, how she's posting up inside you.
Yeah.
But do you see her as a basketball player? Are you going to put her little basketball in her crib? Are you going to get her out there with her Air Jordans on or her Larry Bird Converses or anything like that? Or
I think parents always have a vision. And I've also learned that those visions never actually come to fruition, right? So again, following that cliche statement, we just want healthy and happy. And if she's singing in a choir or playing an instrument or doing something, great. I think naturally, she's going to be at basketball practices. We already have the headphones for the gym, so she's going to be around the game. And so I would obviously love for some of that to rub off. I know Neil, he's like, oh, I hope she's an athlete. Like he's more so all about it than I would. But, I think she's naturally going to grow up around. What I'm excited about is strong role models. She's going to have all of these college basketball players that she's going to idolize. And so I think there's a piece of me that believes, she's going to be around sports. So some of that will rub off.
Hey, maybe she could be a sportscaster. I mean,
never know.
Another role model. I mean, she wants to watch me. She might actually listen.
There you go.
Final question for you. What is the biggest piece of advice you would give? All right, you're Coach Carla Flaherty in 2020. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give Coach Carla Flaherty from back in the day when that coach first started? What's the biggest piece of advice? Because you've learned a lot now. What's the biggest piece of advice you'd give to that coach back then?
To take a deep breath and to listen. You said it earlier, we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And I think the young Carla was aggressive, in your face, screaming, intense. It might have sometimes missed some of those smaller cues where when you step back and observe and truly hear what's going on, I think that's what's invaluable. Our athletes have been playing this game for a really long time. And we don't know everything. They have just as much to teach us as we do to teach them. And that's not just necessarily basketball, right? Like, of course, hour by hour, I have more basketball knowledge, but they have their experience. They're the ones playing. So sitting back, listening, taking that deep breath and having that dialogue. That's what I would say to the younger Coach Carla was, just relax, relax. Don't yell at the officials, take a deep breath and listen.
With the younger Carla listen?
I have mellowed. People don't think I've mellowed, but I have mellowed quite a bit.
Do you, I mean, so you actually feel like you have mellowed from today to when, because I will say this, I actually have seen you grown. I mean, when I first started here in 2015, which you'd be going into your second season at Roanoke College to where you are now, I think I've seen the growth, and I think I've seen you kind of mellow. But when you get after the players, you have to. But I think I've seen you mellow. I can honestly say that, and it's not a knock against you. But I think when coaches get older and they get in their niche, they do mellow and they go with the times. But at the end of the day, they still stay who they are. And I feel like you have in that regard.
Yeah, I think also in this game, and it's something I've learned about myself, when you first begin, I think trust is a two-way street, right? Athletes trusting in their coach and their coach trusting in their athletes. And I think, it's taken a little while, but when it comes to execution and performance, that trust piece allows me to step back, to know, hey, we've covered these things in practice. They know what I'm looking for. I need to trust them to go out and execute. And I think in the very beginning, it was vocalizing through my loud, sometimes voice, every step of the way, pass it to the left, enter it in the post. And so I was constantly talking and dictating rather than letting things unfold on their own. And again, I think that's something I've learned, but I do think that comes with that trust and that development. We have our system. They know what to expect from coach. I know what I can get from them. And I really only need to speak up if for some reason we're off kilter in that regard.
I was going to ask you that. You kind of answered that question because obviously in your first year, you had to do a lot of teaching and all of that. But now you're going into your seventh season. Everybody knows what the program's all about because there is a filter. I mean, there's people that have seen you throughout the time. I'm sure that's a big advantage now. You don't have to probably do as much. I mean, you're going to teach, obviously, and coach, but maybe you don't have to break it down as much because obviously the players will hold their teammates accountable.
Yeah, I think that's a huge step in the progression of a program. Victoria Maxwell, I'll give you an example, Salem native. I took my deep breath when she said to first years in that first year, about summer workouts. She said, you got to go home and you got to get better. That's all coach is expecting. You don't have to be the best, but you can't come back the same. And I overheard her say that and I went, oh, okay, we've made it. Because that's been my message. Every year you have to get better. You cannot stay the same or we're going backwards. And then to have that message reiterated from one of my all-time favorites, nobody worked harder than Victoria, and she understood that. She made herself a great player because she outworked people. And to see that now transcending, to see the voices, going through the program and starting to influence, that's when I knew, okay, we've turned a corner. And so that's where I can, as long as they understand that message, then we're in a good place. And she was really one of the first ones who got it and said, okay, coach, I don't have to be perfect. She just wants me to work hard and to get better. Okay. And that's all I ever ask.
Well, Coach Carla, I appreciate you giving me this time. It's been fun. It's been awesome. Yes. And I tell you, you're awesome and a blessing. And like I said, continued success at Roanoke College, because here's the thing. I think you're going to continue to grow, and congratulations on the little baby, the little munchkin. Look, I just see her now, so adorable. Just well, and the thing is, I'm a granddad right now. I have a 1-year-old. I don't know if you've seen my Facebook page. You've seen pictures, but yeah, I have a 1-year-old grandson. His name is Eli. Eli. And then I have another one that's about 5 months because he was born February. 4 months. His name is Ezariah. His name is Elias. The oldest one is Elias. Okay. The other one is Ezariah. And when I melt. I'm like, I'm 46 and people are surprised. You're a granddad? Yeah. So I'm an old dottery old granddad.
I think it's going to be interesting because I'm a stepmom and yes, to 2 boys. And I think Neil also will. I'm nervous because this little girl already has him wrapped around her fingers. Even the things that he's saying already, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to parent Neil and this baby girl.
Yeah, he's probably got some artillery ready for whoever comes out and tries to date the little one. They're in trouble.
I know. I said no camo. He wanted a camo diaper bag, and I'm like, we're not bringing her around with a camo diaper bag. Like, we're not doing it. But yeah, no. I think again, I know he says every day, like, your life is going to be completely changed, but I'm really looking forward to it. And again, for me, just in this whole journey, being reminded how I'm surrounded by so many wonderful people. It's been awesome talking to you and reconnecting, and it makes my day when I get to see you on the sidelines. So make sure you come to some more games and get in there, and I'll have the little one there so you can film and hold at the same time.
You know what? So if you need me to hold her during the game, I probably could do that. Well, first of all, I'll be masked up. I'll be masked up, and then she'll be masked up. So,
yeah.
Congratulations, Coach. Give Neil and your son my best. And hey, congratulations again. This has been the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com.
And thank you so much for checking out this edition of the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. For all the latest news, weather, and sports, there's only one place to go. That's WFXRTV.com. Also, download the WFXR News app. More good stuff. We are here to hook you up with the good stuff on WFXR. Again, thank you so much for watching the latest edition of the WFXR Sports Sit Down on WFXRTV.com. I'm Jermaine Ferrell. Hope all of your teams are winners. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everybody.